So what we're doing here is basically using a hang jump shrug for Faz, who is a master sprinter. We're using a hang jump shrug just to get some loaded kind of ballistic work in. What we found from the force plate testing is he's strong as hell. Yeah, we don't necessarily need much more force production. He's super strong. What we do see though from the force plate data is his ground contact time, because he's been powerlifting for too long, is a lot slow. So we're really focusing this block on teaching him how to get off the ground, get a bit more reactive. So his RSI score, I think, was quite low, simply because his contact time was super long, even though his jump height was through the roof, literally through the roof. So most of his work is going to be very ballistic, so we're going to that more reactive strength, like some tier 1 fast contact time plyometric or reactive work. And then we're just using the hang jump shrug to get some load in his hands, get some load through his legs for that kind of ballistic work. Hang jump shrug I like really well because I'm not a super competent Olympic lifting coach. So this works well because I can actually give him some good instruction, and then we might progress this at some point into just a hang pull as well, which will be fine for what we need. All we're doing now for the moment with Faz is we're going to hook up the RepOne velocity device. We're going to look at the peak velocity, so we've got mean or average velocity and the peak velocity. With these more ballistic, I guess, ollie lifting style movements, we're looking at the peak velocity to kind of look at some power output. So what we're going to do, we're going to keep adding weight to the bar. We're going to look at the peak velocity, and we're looking for a peak velocity of around 2.2 to 2.4 and see where we end up. There we are. So, yep, just treat each rep as its own rep. We're not going continuous. Single set. When you're ready, go. Good. Reset again. And straight up. Good. And cool. Down on the bar. Cool. So, if you want to take a look at this, but we've got the, over here, we've got the mean or average velocity through here. We don't use that because we're looking at the fastest point of the concentric rep, just to kind of start getting some correlation with some power output. So we see 2.55, 2.55, 2.56, which is very consistent. It's almost as if he's done this before. It's like spot on. The other thing I look at here as well is we're looking at the range of motion. We see his range of motion on the reps is 665 mil, 671 mil, 660 mil. So already he's got a really great sense of where he needs to be and where he needs to go. So we're getting very tight range of motion in there, which is awesome. So yeah, I've said all along, he's a natural athlete, wasted in powerlifting. So this is something I really like about these RepOne devices. Well, there are many things I like about them. One is they're a tethered device. From my understanding from the literature, the tethered devices are generally going to show more accuracy, more reliability, more consistency, especially at the lower end of the range, especially at slow speed. So at these faster speeds, we get a lot of devices which are fantastic, but they tend to fall down or fall over rather when we get into sort of slow, grindy kind of reps. So the RepOnes don't, tethered devices generally don't. So that means we can kind of use the same devices for our ballistic athletes, but also start hitting some heavy work with the powerlifting guys and still have some consistent, reliable, accurate information coming through. And another thing I really like about them is the app and the readouts, where we get all sorts of really useful data for me. Not useful for some things like, you know, powerlifting, maybe we're not worried about peak velocity, so it's great with the RepOne that we've got a whole kind of smorgasbord of useful info depending on what you need to do. So anyway, Faz, we'll go for another 3. So I'm intentionally not cueing Faz too much, simply because we're going to sort of go down the path of self-organization and let the individual figure out some things themselves as much as they can. And he's actually doing a great job. So one thing I see in coaching, coaches will try and give a lot of instruction, a lot of cues, and over cue from the beginning. I did at the beginning as well, because we're trying to do everything right and be the best we can. I get it, that's cool. But I've just kind of learned over the 20 odd years just to sit back, give some basic instructions, get on with it, figure it out, and then we'll intervene with cues or specific corrections if we need to. But as we can see with Faz, he got straight in, everything's been right on the money in terms of what we're seeing here. So yeah, by not giving all the cues and all the instruction, we just saved ourselves maybe 15 minutes of fluffing around. So it's cool. Great to see you. When you're ready, Faz? You're up. Good. So we're getting good extension through the hips, knees, ankles. Looking fine. Come down. Absolutely fine. So we're looking again at the set here. It was actually better. So I think you just tried harder. So if you can see that. So we've basically got 2.48, 2.48, 2.32. When we see that increase, even though the weight's gone up, sometimes that can be because the individual's just kind of got a little bit more intent, can feel that weight in the hands. They're going to kind of push it a little bit harder, just like with the powerlifting. Yeah. Sometimes you need that last warm-up to actually kind of get switched on.
Yeah.
Sometimes we see an increase in the velocity with more weight because maybe they figured out some sort of position or some kind of strategy they're going to use. I'm not too worried about keeping it like completely strict. We're simply using this as a means to an end, okay? We're not necessarily trying to get good at this so we get good at Olympic lifting as we transition through. It's just an exercise we're using for a purpose. So let's take the weight up again, see where we go. When you're ready, yep, you just get yourself in. Come on, there we are, good. Cool, that's good. So now we're starting to see a slight drop compared to the last time. So like I said, I like to shoot for around 2.2 to 2.4 on these. That seems to be the most common sort of range I've found. We're looking at any kind of research and other practitioners. So yep, that's what we're using. So we got 2.439, 2.461, 2.425. I reckon we're gonna leave it there. We could put more weight on the bar and bring the velocity down a little bit, but we'll leave it there. And all we're going to do now is we're using today's session to kind of get a sense of where he's at. Because we're not going to have the opportunity to do this every week, we're simply going, okay, cool, let's look at the weight you got on the bar today. So we're going to keep that weight the same all the way through the next 3-week blocks and just kind of give him more practice, more time doing the exercise, figure out a few things, and then also, as the weeks go by, start using the idea of in the bottom, as we go through the jump, that relaxation, hard contraction, yeah. Yep. So learn how to go from relax to contract hard. So yeah, kind of just moving through the 3 weeks with more subjective improvements than worrying about numbers and stuff. So yeah, that's how we use VBT for our ballistic movements for some sport athletes.